All right, just a quick video to go through how to graph on the calculator. So we've got an equation here, which is y equals 4x plus 2, and we're given a domain. So a domain is representing which x values we want to see, or that's relevant for this line for this particular question. So the line is going to be represented by this equation, but we only want the line to be from -2 to 7 from left to right. So our equation is y equals 4x plus 2. So on a new document, we can go to Insert Graphs. So our equation was y equals 4x plus 2, just confirm that. Now notice here that it has f1x. That is in place of y. So this is y equals, so all we have to input is 4x plus 2. We don't put y equals at the beginning of that. That's a mistake that some people make. Once we press enter on that, we're going to see a line. Now to get back up to that editable where we can insert new equations, we press tab. So we can press tab and that'll get there. Now it's to F2. That means we can put a second line. If we press up, that'll take us back to that first one. So there's our line. Now we can put a domain in here by using the little vertical line that is control equals, and there it is there. That vertical line allows us to put in relevant x values. So remembering our domain was -2 to 7, including both. So we go -2 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 7. And once we put that domain in, the graph is going to change. See here, it doesn't continue past this because this is where x equals -2. We can click on the equation and press delete. That'll get rid of it. I like to do that just to make sure I've got a clear screen with what I can see. So this is obviously not a good window setup. If we go into menu, window, and zoom, there's lots of zoom options. So you might want to try zoom fit or zoom standard or zoom in, zoom out. I tend to not use any of the zoom options. I use window settings. It's the only thing that I use because it gives me a little bit more control over what I'm seeing. So I know that my graph, if we look at the domain, is from -2 to 7. So I always like to go a little bit to the left, so let's say -4, and a little bit to the right, we can say 10. Now if we do that, that's going to determine left to right, but we also need to consider top to bottom. So to find out how far up and down our graph goes, we can substitute these x values into where x is to see what the y coordinate is going to be. So if we sub -2 into x, we get 4 times -2 is -8, plus 2 is -6. So that's -6.66 there. I'll go a little bit further, so I'll go -8. So that's how far down my graph's going to go. If I sub 7 in, 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30. So I might go a little bit either side, so I'll go 35. Now the scale just means how often these little dashes are in. I never really alter that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's up to you whether you do. But for this one, I'm not going to. So if we then press OK, that's going to give us a better idea of where our graph is and what's going on. We now have our line that represents our equation of y equals 4x plus 2, but we only have it from x equals -2 to x equals 7. Now on here, the dashes are happening every 0.5, so don't think this is -4. -4 is over here. So we might want to change that if we go into window settings and just change it to 1. So we're getting a dash every 1. So here we go, each one and then each one up here. For the y, might be good to change it to 5. So we get a dash every 5. So you can control that and it will always show the first scale point or the first dash. So whatever your x scale is, that number will appear there. Whatever your y scale is, it'll appear there. So now we can see our graph. We might want to find certain things about our graph. So if we go to Analyze Graph, 0 is x-intercepts. So if we press 0, you'll notice that we get this lower bound dotted line. Lower bound means put it to the left, so which is below the x-intercept we're trying to find. So here's the x-intercept. we want to go slightly to the left, then it says upper bound. So we go across to the right and it finds that x-intercept, and we can pick that up and move it where we want to. So we analyze graph 0, that's how we find x-intercepts. Minimum and maximum are not relevant for straight lines. Intersection is used if we've got 2 or more lines and we want to find where they cross, and none of the other things here are relevant for further maths. What we might want to do though is find the y-intercept. Now to do that, we go to trace and graph trace. Now graph trace puts the little cursor anywhere along the line, and if we press left and right on our calculator, we can go to the left and to the right. Now, the easiest and quickest thing to do is not worry about getting the cursor there. If the cursor is here, just press enter and that'll label a point. Now, that's clearly not a point we want to have. So if you see up here, this is the graph trace icon. If we press escape, that'll get rid of that. So now I'm not in graph trace mode. I can then use this keypad to put my cursor on here, click it so it highlights, click it again so you've got your flashing cursor. Then we can change that to 0 and press enter, and that will snap to the y-intercept. Because remember, the y-intercept happens when x is 0. Last thing I might want to do is find the end points of the line. So we know that's when x equals -2 and when x equals 7. So I'm going to go back to graph trace. I'm going to click anywhere along there a couple of times and then press escape to get off graph trace mode. Click it twice so it is a cursor, change it to 7, that's that endpoint, and then do this one to -2. Now I've labelled all of the points that are relevant, the x and y-intercept and the endpoints. So that's how you graph things on the calculator. It's how you adjust the window, it's how you find x-intercepts, and how you find y-intercepts and any other point on the curve.